Welcome to Soulful. Whether you're navigating challenges or celebrating victories,
We're here to remind you that every step on your path is meaningful. I'm Tiff.
and I'm Jess.
So let's clear our mind as we fill our soul. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Soulful. I'm here with Jess, and I'm Tiff. We're here getting ready to get back in it again. It is Canada Day as we are recording, so if you're doing anything today with your family or friends, well, if you were doing anything, we hope it's a great time. So yeah, without rambling on too much, I think we could just jump right in for a check-in. And so, Jess, how are you feeling this week? It's early in the week. It's a Tuesday.
Yeah, it's messed me up because of the holiday. So it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like a week and then it's like a day off. And then so it kind of feels like a bit of a Sunday for me because Sundays is usually my day off. And so I just got to get back into like the mindset of like, no, it's actually Tuesday and tomorrow's Wednesday and I have to go back to work. But yeah, other than that, I mean, it is a beautiful day to have a beautiful day. The sun is shining here. So yeah, looking forward to getting out and enjoying that after we wrap up here and yeah, probably just doing a lot of nothingness. I've spent a lot of time I was gonna say this past week, but I guess really it's like last week now because it's only Tuesday. Beading. So and not beading like obsessively where it's the only thing I do ever. Just like casually picking it excuse me, when it feels right. And so yeah, I've been able to create lots and tap into like that creativity part where yeah, I find it kind of ebbs and flows for sure, but I really try to balance like yeah, not having to do it for like 8 hours where my eyes like are tired and I can't even blink and because I've just been distracting myself with the beating. It just yeah. So um
Mm.
it's just been a really nice, easy flowing week. Um, the energy shift, I think, had a lot to do with that because of summer solstice. So
Yes. Yes.
we got the sunrise ceremony last week. And so that was just really powerful as well. So I think of just bringing some of that energy into, yeah, hopefully this new season. Yeah. What
Awesome.
about you?
Yes, the solstice. I yeah, I feel like this spring is like so energizing. I don't know if anybody else feels that way where I'm like I literally feel like an animal who's come out of hibernation. It's like, okay, go, 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 and then the solstice hits and it's like, okay, now I can like ease into the summer months. Doesn't mean I'm not productive or anything like that, but just I really love to just enjoy summer. Um, well, it's like currently 36 degrees here. I love that. My plants are sunburned. We hit 45 last week, and some of my plants were very unhappy with those temperatures, and they're like burnt, and that made me kind of laugh because I'm like, oh, even the plants get burned, but yeah. But yeah, we're in for another good week. I am going to the water park tomorrow as an adult. I was gonna go solo. I finally found someone to come with me, so I don't care. I'll go by myself. I love the water park. Brings out my inner kid, and I can play there all day. Honestly, love the water slides. Love being in the pool. It's a little busy because it's like a really like themed. It's our biggest attraction probably for like family stuff like that here in Ottawa. But anyway, it's a ton of fun. So we'll be doing
Fun.
that
It's
tomorrow.
36 degrees. Holy smokes.
I'm living for it. I also said the gates. I went outside this morning to my partner. I went outside and I was like out watering my plants. I was like, it's just such a perfect time to be out. It's like so warm. My feet are in the grass. Like,
Well, I'm like, can I get back in the air conditioning yet? Or yeah.
yeah. Yeah, when it hit the 45, I feel like I was one of the very few people singing the tune of like, it's so great outside. Everyone's like, are you nuts? Like lock me up in the AC.
Or belting. Yeah.
Yeah. Nope, just more confirmation that I will not forever live in Canada. Yeah, love that heat.
We've
So yeah.
actually had a cooler start to summer here, which I'm not mad about at all. Um, a winter baby for sure, but yeah, like just surprising because usually by this time of the year, like it's very hot as well and just
Yeah.
really dry. I mean, it still is dry for sure, but we've also been getting a little bit of rain here and there, which has been yeah, it's just been really nice. So I do hope that keeps up because, of course, fire season. So I just always
Yeah,
am very clear temperatures and moisture this time of year.
absolutely. Especially where you guys are. We don't get hit with fires like that as often. It happens on occasion, but
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
definitely want that rain on the West Coast.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
for
Yeah.
sure. Okay, well, today's topic is coming with a Tiff story as always, but it's one Jess and I both said we haven't put like we it's not one that's come up in our own journey, I guess often maybe. I don't want to speak for you, Jess, but like it's just yeah, some of the topics we touch on are really, for me anyway, super well rooted into stuff that I talk about often. But yeah, I just had a moment. So I came home from work. I'll just, before I share what the topic is, I'm going to share the story. But I came home from work and it was midnight working one of my other jobs. And it was a night that like tried me a lot. And when I came home, I was feeling really unbalanced, not grounded, like flighty, dysregulated. So I decided I wanted to sit outside because it was warm. We're in nice weather. It was warm. And so I came out and I sat on my patio. I got the little twinkly lights and stuff out there. It was cute. And then I was like, no, I need to put my feet in the grass because I'm not grounded. So I came down, sat down on the stoop and like put my feet in the actual grass. Well, I hear a crash, bang, clunk, whatever, and I was like, oh, the raccoons are out because we have a bunch of raccoons that live around our property. But I turn and I look to my right, and not even 6 feet away is a massive skunk. And I was like, okay. And like, I'm not feeling very grounded. And I wasn't anyway. And now there's this, and it was a big skunk. I've never seen it. Well, I guess I have seen big skunks like that, but they're not as common. Usually they're like cute and fluffy. Anyway, this was a big guy. And the second I locked eyes on it, both of us looked at each other and it was like, oh no. But you're not expecting to see me. I'm not expecting to see you. This is not good. As he was like, this is my turf at nighttime, okay? I had a split second to be like, what am I gonna do? I don't feel like I would threaten the skunk because I'm not gonna attack it and I'm not going to, But I was like, in the same breath, if something else threatens that skunk, I'm still gonna be in the line of fire. So I'm like, this is all happening in a flash. So I
Yeah.
made the decision to jump up and run, knowing that that could startle the skunk and like book it into my house. So I did. I made it in. I was unscathed, did not get sprayed. Skunk did not spray in front of my house either, because that would also have been terrible. It moseyed on, ate my plants, left. I watched it from inside. So I was telling my mom about the story the next day, and we were talking about that, and then we were talking about porcupines and just like their natural defenses. They're not looking to harm anybody, but that is just how they keep themselves safe. It's just what they do. And literally 2 days later, and this part is like a little bit hard for me to admit live to public people, but I honor my vulnerability here, so I'm going to share it anyway. So 2 days after the skunk incidents happened, it's now a Thursday. My son comes home, or he came over for it wasn't our week together, so he came over for a little bit. And he says to me so matter of factly, Mom, do you know how like you're nice to people's face and not behind their backs? And I was like, oh, like punch to the gut. I was like, and everything and screaming me inside me was like, that's not true. It's not true. And I was like, okay, wait, listen to what your kid has to say. And I was like, could I have more context, please? And he was like, well, when we went and saw the dental hygienist and, you were like super nice in there, but you came home and you were mad. And I was like, yep. I was like, can't deny that that happened. That is 1,000% true. Yep. And so then I stopped to think about it. And would I have had that gut reaction to the skunk spraying me of like, oh my God, you can't do that. That's terrible. No, would I have been like, man, I stink and this is awful and I don't like it. But would I be judgmental of the skunk or like, feel this like sense of something with the skunk? No, I would have understood that's the skunk's natural defense. But for myself, there was a layer of judgment and shame. Just as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh, that's bad. Like, oh, that's icky. I don't do that. And so I did settle the nuance with him of like, you're right. I absolutely did do that in that moment. I said, do I think that that is like my main pattern that I hold? I said, no. Like I said, I really don't. I said, I actually really love people and being around people, but I said I felt very threatened in that moment because we were being judged in the dental office. And so my natural defense was to people please. It was to turn on this like, okay, this is fine, we are good, whatever. And when I came home, my true feelings came out. And I can judge myself for that and shame myself. And let me tell you, I did feel really like panicked when he said that out loud. But it just opened this like beautiful thought process in my mind of like, why is it, and it's not just that thing that we judge as a collective society. I think we judge a lot of defensive behavior in humans. And maybe I'll just speak for myself. I judge sometimes what other people, and when I stop to think about it, that really it's a form of self-protection. Does it need to be judged? Sure, we can still judge it, but do we need to feel ashamed of it? Do we need to feel guilty about it? Like, I don't know. It's just opened up these thoughts. So, Jess, as I share that story, and we're going to be diving into defenses today and like our defensive selves, does anything jump out at you before we like kind of even get into the conversation?
Yeah, I think like, yeah. So defensive behaviors, I suppose. Yeah, I like the story of the skunk, first of all. Like, because I think it's true, right? Like it's easier to look, I think, at animals in like knowing that, yeah, this is what they do, and we don't
Yeah.
really bat a second eye to it, right? And then of course ourselves were always a little more harsh at that. And then other people too, I think, right?
Yep.
Sometimes because it's like, why are you doing this? We try to figure out the reasons why.
Yep.
Often it could be because like I think for me anyways, like I take things personally sometimes. And so if someone is like, yeah, maybe not treating me the way I think I should be treated or whatever, sometimes I think that's a reflection of myself and not of that person, or maybe their own defenses or whatever. And
Yes.
so, yeah, I just think that like that connection is very interesting and like, um, the same thing. So not to always go back to the four agreements, although somehow I always end up back there. But is there something similar that I read that reminded me of your story? And that was that, about blaming, right? So when like we're the only excuse me, species on Earth that like pays for the same mistake more than once, right? Like something
Ooh.
happens to, yeah, like I think about animals, right? Like I don't know what kind of mistakes they make in animal world, but like, it's just like just something happens and then you just move on from it. But us, yeah, like we revisit that maybe later. We think about it 3 months from now. We think about it. Then somebody mentions and it's like, again, like, hey, remember that time you did that thing and that was
Yeah.
really bad? It could be like years later, we're still like making ourselves pay for that. And so, yeah, that's what it reminded me of in terms of like, yeah, we hold a lot more compassion for, this little
Yes.
skunk who is just doing what it does. And we understand that. And also humans do what they do because there's something else as well. And that's, yeah. So I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
That really landed what you just said, like how we're the only species that pay for the mistake more than once. And you're like, I don't know what mistakes animals make, but I feel like what came to mind was like a bird flying into a window, thinking it's a clear space, you know? Does
Yeah.
that bird
Yeah.
get up and be like, oh man, I'm so dumb. Like, why would I do
Stupid
something
and
so stupid like that? Yeah. It's
yeah.
like, ouch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Give a little shake.
So true. Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's super interesting. And I think we'll get into like some of the reasons like why do we perceive it differently as humans? Like what are the reasons why we kind of like assign such meaning and stuff to it? Because I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know. I don't think we're that different from animals. I don't think we're as disconnected from some of these other things. And I think we
Mhm.
can learn a lot from that too. But
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, the defense is something that I learned over this past year is a little bit of, I might have talked about it here before, I don't know, but it's internal family systems is the therapy type. And they talk a lot about these defenses as protector parts. And so, and in IFS, it's coined as no bad parts. So there's no part of us that is bad. It just exists for a reason and we can understand it and shift it.
Yeah.
if it doesn't serve us anymore. But we also don't have to let it go if it serves us, even if it isn't perceived as something good in other people's eyes, because that is such a subjective thing anyway. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, so I guess to open us up, just the question I have for you is, and I'll share some of mine too, but can you identify some of these like defense systems, whether you've seen in others or in yourself? I believe like at the core of this, of course, we have fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, which a lot of people are starting to get familiar with the fawn word as well. Like that is what the nervous system states go into. But like I'm really curious because thinking about the skunk and then thinking about my adaptation, kind of like how it manifests behaviorally versus like just the nervous system response that we have in within ourselves. Like how does it look in practical terms? So yeah, I don't know if you have any yeah, examples or things that you'd like to share about that.
Yeah, and I think this is just such a great question too, because I think like if for anybody who spends any space in like a psychology space or maybe therapy or like yeah, just any of these kind of like wellness, holistic, whatever spaces, we hear a lot about fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. And then the added of like what does that like how does it show up, right? Like I think that's a very valuable yeah, it's a very valuable question and reflection. And so yeah, thanks for posing that because I don't know that I had thought about that before. Like, but like, oh yeah, my I would say for me, like my kind of default, I won't say default. I'll say like there are certain responses that show up for me in different spaces.
Yes.
But I do find I kind of go back to the flight and fawn a little more than the others. Not that I don't do the others, just I think that's what comes up more for me.
Yeah.
And so I often say that and then what does that mean though? Like what does that mean? And so yeah, I just really appreciated the opportunity to reflect on that. So I think some of the more familiar responses that or some of the responses I'm more familiar with, I guess, would be when I think about flight, like it's really like that avoidance, right?
Mm,
So like avoidance of people, avoidance of conflict, avoidance of my responsibilities.
yep.
And then also I think a little bit of the flight comes into like overworking, where it's
Yes.
like overworking because I'm avoiding, whatever is going on or because I don't want to, dig in and deal with it. And also I think a little bit of restlessness comes in there for me as well. So when I can't stay still,
Yes.
I can't like just sit and bead for like maybe an hour because I have some spare time. It's like, yeah, like I'm constantly thinking about it and have to like put all of my energy into it. And if I'm not doing that, I have to run to something else. And I kind of disguise them as like wellness things when it's like I'm actually not doing it for wellness. I'm doing it because I'm trying to distract or avoid something else.
Right.
Um, so yeah, like those are a couple of things that come up to me for flight when I think about my flight responses. And then if I were to think about fun responses, this one for me kind of gets, and I think it's maybe a little more nuanced than like the others. I don't know if it's because like it's more newer or like I see different stuff on it lots, but
Yeah.
I do resonate with some of those responses as well. The first one I think you had mentioned earlier, but like this kind of like people pleasing of like trying to like always bend over backwards to do something for somebody else
Yeah.
and codependency I think comes up here a little bit as
Yeah.
well in the fun, right? When we are people pleasing and just being really what's the word I'm looking for, like attuned, I guess, to other people's like emotions or their needs.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you talk about like internal like family systems. I remember doing a group on internal family systems maybe a couple of years ago now. Is the first time that to be honest, that was the first time that I was really like opened up my eyes to some of the roles that that you play or multiple roles that you play within
Yeah.
within families. And so yeah, it goes back to that self-worth, I guess, is being tied to yeah, other people's approval, or especially those relationships I think that are like close in proximity. So and then of course, yeah, so those are a couple that I feel more familiar with. And then yeah, the fight and freeze, also familiar, of like just escalating to the aggression and going right to like anger, and yeah, trying to control outcomes. I know we've talked like a lot about that before.
Yeah.
But yeah, and to be honest, like when I think about a lot of the things that I do, like procrastination, when I think about, um, I don't know, like withdrawing, isolating myself, all those things, like I do think that it all comes from a place of defense. So,
Yeah.
it's just really interesting to name it because I don't know that I've ever done that. Yeah.
100%. It's like categorizing it. It's like, oh yeah, I'm already aware I do those things, but like
Yeah.
let me look at it under this like lens or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you gave so many good examples there. The avoidance tied to flight, 100%. Oh my gosh. Because yeah, like oh, I definitely relate to that too. I don't go into fight very often. I have to be pushed pretty hard to land into a fight defense. Not saying I won't,
Yeah.
but I for a long time freeze was my thing. Numbing, dissociating, like doom scrolling, I would think is like more of a
Um,
freezing thing because it's like I'm just shut down. I'm in this like little bubble. But I think yeah, I think for me it's fawning has the probably the and I've put a lot of thought into this over the past week and a half. It's like, well, I know why fawning has such a strong hold on me. It has been a excellent survival adaptation for me. It has been
yeah.
excellent. It has served me so well for so long that it's like, well, no wonder it's been a knee jerk reaction for me. Like, if I can just make sure everyone around me is okay and they're happy and whatever, I can deal with my own feelings for myself as opposed to like learning to prioritize that, like, my feelings come first no matter what the outcome is around me, you know? Like when I think about that hygienist, I was trying to smooth the water. Like my automatic pattern. You said your default or whatever, but yeah, default
Yeah.
automatic pattern is to be like, okay, she's judging us and this, and I don't feel very safe right now. So how do I make myself feel safe right now? And was I thinking any of those sentences? No. My brain's
Yeah.
like, oh, we don't feel safe. This is what we do. Check.
Yeah.
Like, let's ride the highway to people please. And
Yeah.
and yeah, there's just so many ways we have defenses. Like if I'm sure now after we have this conversation too, I'm going to see it up in other people as well. But perfectionism for me is a big one that's tied to defense
Mhm.
because again, if
Mhm.
I can just make sure I do everything well, I can keep myself safe from criticism, from rejection, from whatever. So that's a big one for me too. And then I thought about a couple last night when I was relaxing in the country and I was like, and I feel like this one might get a bit of bite back because I feel like even the way I say it kind of sounds icky, but just goes to show where I still have moralizing around defense systems in me. But like playing a victim, what a
Mm.
great defense strategy.
Yeah. Totally.
Controlling the narrative. I think you said controlling outcomes or something, but yeah, trying to control the narrative, like making sure that I'm perceived. And we talked about perception last time. So perceived in a certain light. But all of these when it comes back to it, like I employ different ones at different times, like you were saying, Jess, right? Like it depends on the situations that I'm
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
But they're pretty traceable. Like if I sit and think about it, there's like they pop up in very specific scenarios. So it's like easy to understand if I look at it.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, anyway, no, you gave some really great examples there. And I think about like my kiddo, I love that he's a fight. His automatic to step into is fight. And sometimes that's confrontational and conflict seeking. And, you know, there's some like challenges with that. But also, like, I don't know, I just respect that part of him that's super protective of himself, you know? And,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know. I think when I can look at it in that lens, it's like, well, yeah, he's just trying to stay safe. And yes, there are other ways we can learn how to do that, but it's what works for him right now, and he can choose differently if he wants to as he ages, you know? But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Because I think like, yeah, I mean, defensive, and I know I see this about a lot of things as well, is like, yeah, when we look at something as like neutral, right? It
yes,
have like a bad or good, like this kind of like social conditioning on something, it's like it look becomes less about what that defense is and more about the like where's it coming from and what like how does it serve me, right? Like
Yes.
it kind of looking at it from a neutral space.
Yeah. You just named like we can jump right into that because you just named yeah like the reasons why we aren't neutral about it. Like what are the reasons why we're not neutral about it? You just named one for sure. Social conditioning. It's like
Mhm.
we're taught not to be confrontational. We're taught not to be like conflict. Maybe some people aren't, but I think generally it's like no, like we get along and you don't rock the boat, and maybe that's just what I was taught. Maybe others were taught differently. That's what I was taught,
Yeah.
but yeah, I guess why are we so quick to judge? Like you said, you also named being like that personalization of what somebody else is doing as well. But like, why are we so quick to judge or have some kind of reaction to somebody's defensive behavior? Like some of the reasons.
Yeah, I think like, well, for sure, because of, sometimes it like hits something within us too, right? Like other
Yes.
people's defenses. And so I think like, I think it's complex when it comes to that because it's like this like emotional back and forth, but we do it unconsciously, I think, right? Like or
Yeah.
subconsciously. We don't actively go out to be like, this is going to happen. It's going to trigger something in me, and then I'm going to react this way, and then they're going to, that's not how it works. And so
No.
I think like a lot of times, excuse me, like these defense mechanisms, defensive behaviors can especially things like isolation or withdrawing, the aggression, like this brings up something sometimes for other people as well.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I sang way too loud at the Road Hammers last night, I think, in a raspy voice. Even though I only knew half of one song. But anyways, yeah, so I think like that's a big part for me. Like when I reflect on like why um kind of like why I jumped to that of like, taking it personally would be one. And I think social conditioning for sure, those expectations, right, that we have,
Expectations.
yeah, like that we have around control, because I think that our society does like have a lot of value around control,
Yeah.
performance as well, right? So I think like those are things that society holds in high value. And so when we are, I guess, act like irrationally or more from our emotions, I suppose. Yeah, it's just viewed as like, yeah, not right, or like not the way that we should.
Yeah.
So yeah, social, what else? I think like I don't know if this is where it fits, but like obviously attachment has like a space in this world, like or in
Yeah.
this defensive kind of conversation, right? And I don't know if this is where it fits, but when I think about um when I think about attachment, yeah, we've picked up ways to survive, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's the same system that the skunk used that night. It's the same system, only now, there's so much other things that kind of come into play, as humans, I guess, right? Versus animals. But attachment, I think, is a really big part of that, like how
Yeah.
we've learned to adapt to, the things of our environment, like as when we're younger, as babies and children. So yeah, when our like needs aren't met, I guess, in our responses, then maybe we're shamed or
Yeah.
um punished or things like that. And so yeah, it's easier for us to pick up the same reactions to some of those defensive behaviors in other people, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that last point hits for sure. I feel like it does belong in that part of the conversation. Like yeah, just the not even like the attachment of the shame or whatever to our own behavior, but when we see it in others and it's like, oh, you don't do that. We can't do that. Like you were saying, like
Yeah.
acting irrational. I love the way you phrased society puts a lot of emphasis on control and like being controlling of ourselves. And yeah, what do we do? Like I look at my son in the behavior program at school. His behavior didn't fit what is societally. You used the word expectation, and that's what I was looking for when I started to ask this question. What the and they use that term in schools all the time. You are not acting within expected behavior,
Yeah.
and I understand there's some value in us learning how to socially meld and
Mhm.
like in terms of like what am I trying to say? Like my kid is he is a push. He's going to push outside of all of the boxes that he gets tried to be like put in. And
Mhm.
I love that. But if we
Yeah.
are all doing that, how functional will we be as a society? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not here
Yeah.
to dissect that. But anyway, we do put a lot of emphasis to come back to your statement on control and on acting in expected manners that are deemed as societally accepted.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think, and you and I talk about this all the time, but I just humans, we love to moralize behavior. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, oh, that's good. Oh, that's bad. Oh, that's not right. Oh, that's this, you know? So
Yeah.
yeah, that's the, yeah, just the humanness in us, I guess. But when I look at it that way, it's like, well, it makes sense because the animals, yeah, we just accept that little skunk. I accept that porcupine dispelling its quills. Like, you
Yep.
know, I understand that they feel unsafe. And I think this brings us into like a great next question. And that is how we feel, because defenses come up because it threatens something or something feels like we need to protect it or we feel unsafe. How feeling unsafe has changed over thinking about caveman days where we were hardwired to flee the lion or to flee
Mm.
the bear or to like, you know, those survival defenses need to kick on. Like we need them. Like we don't want them to go away. We need them in a time of crisis, right? Or like urgency.
Yeah.
Um, but how we're not necessarily, I mean, I'm sure if you're out hiking and stuff, you can still be chased by a lion or a bear. Yes. But in general, that is not how we live. Yet these defenses still play a major role in how they're adapted. So, yeah, just curious of, I don't think there's a question there, but just yeah, what do you think about that difference in how we've shifted as society? And do I guess I do have a question. Do you feel like and I know this is just your hot take, but like do you feel like people are very aware of the amount of times they feel threatened or like need to self-protect like in general society? Because I feel like it happens pretty automatic for a lot of us, but
Eh, yeah. And my initial gut reaction is like, absolutely not.
yeah, mine too.
Yeah, like because I don't too, right? Like I often don't see my defensive
Yeah.
behavior or my defensive like mechanism or whatever we want to call it coming out in the moment, right? Until I've had some time to like think about it or reflect on it. Yeah, it's not something that I'm just I'm doing this because I'm defending or I'm going into this position. Um, but like I guess in terms of like um like juggling this like society now versus like kind of going back to that fight like that animal in the woods kind of thing, right? Where it's like,
Primal.
yeah, you have to run and yeah, exactly, our primal instincts. That's where I was looking for. And so I think the thing that was very helpful for me though was to understand that those systems are the same. So like
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier, it comes from the same place, right? Our same parts of our brain is activated in those moments. And so yeah, you do what you have to do for it's still a primal instinct, it's still a survival instinct. And so when I guess I framed it like looking at it that way, it kind of like it did take a little less of that like maybe perception or like expectation or like judgment. Like it was easier to kind of look at it and be like, okay, this is how my body, my mind reacted to, to get through it.
Yeah.
But like when we're juggling people's like emotions and the like psychological part of like our world and like all of these things that we didn't always have to juggle. And I think that animals don't have to worry about, right? Like they can just act how they act and nobody is gonna like um yeah judge them for it, or like 6 months down the road like they're still reflecting on that time that they did that thing, like, so I think it's yeah, I think we have to juggle a lot more when there's like emotions and all of this
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
for sure. So um what else could I say about this? There was something I was going to say about, oh yeah, socially. So like so for example, like we are like hardwired for connection, right? And so often, like, there was a time when I would feel very excluded from things, and that triggered this rejection part of me, I
Yeah.
think, right? Like feeling rejected. And then the way it was just explained to me, it was like that's the same as like physical pain, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the same as physical pain. And so yeah, I think I don't know, it's just I guess something that like kind of stood out. Um Social, yeah, we have a bunch of different threats, I guess, if we want to look at it in that way, like the threats that we're kind of balancing. So um yeah, I don't know if that was like I answered a question
Yeah.
or gave some, but
Yeah.
those were some of the thoughts.
Yeah, I think it's like, well, I love, like I was saying in the beginning, like I love going back to nature as a reflection back to like our origins and like, just like whether I'm talking about plants or I'm talking about animals, because those primal instincts are in us, like even though we've evolved as humans and, you know, um, it is interesting though, like just thinking about, yeah, the 6 months later, I think because you mentioned that in the beginning, but yeah, that's just really striking me. Yeah, we're the only ones who pay for the same mistake twice. And like, how can we pay for it less? Like, what do we do to pay for it less is maybe
Yeah.
just like learning more compassion and such, right? But um, yeah, once we get activated, everything is just in that like auto mode if we don't slow it down or we can't find the pause or we can't find the breath. And
Yeah.
I was thinking about as you were talking, the one thing that kind of makes me laugh, and I'm not so bad personally myself with it now, but in society, how we've evolved with the phone use of like, okay, we phone call everybody. And it's like, well, first, before the phone calls, it was like letter writing, whatever, or telegrams or whatever they were. Phone calls, then we switched to texting, and then now it's like when I was watching a TikTok or something, and there's like, "Don't call me," and the person's anxiety like just spiking so hard because the
Yeah.
phone rang, and I was
Yeah.
like, wow, I wonder how our ancestors would feel about our current evolution, that this
Yeah.
kicks a fight or flight reaction because the phone is ringing. And it just kind of made me giggle. Obviously, it was all in lightheartedness, but yeah, just the things that cause threat, how different they look. It's not to say the other things that cause threat are not still there, but just how and I guess that looks different for people because like I said, I don't want to rock the boat at all and my kid's like, let's go like into the storm, and like
Yeah.
so obviously it's different per person what those survival mechanisms look like. And even in identifying them, like, do we have to let them go? I like, do we need to try and change it? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, I think that's the thing, right? Because it's like if it is coming from a survival place, like how do we adapt different techniques or different like reactions or responses to this the res to the flight fawn or whatever, right? Like
Freeze.
all of
Yeah.
our defenses, like how do we adapt ones? Like I'm not even sure. Like I don't know like if we can, like I don't know. I think like maybe I think let me think about how I'm trying to say it, but like I think maybe what we have more control over is how how many spaces we put ourselves into that like these constantly like these
Mm.
responses are triggered,
Yes.
because it's like I don't know, like yeah, if anybody else knows, let us know. Can you control your defenses or like, make them change or shift them? I don't know. I'd be
Yeah.
interested to hear what others think for sure. But I know for me, like if I if physical violence or like physical aggression is like a trigger for me, or like I come from an experience that like that activates me, it puts me in my fight or freeze kind of like mindset.
Yeah.
I'm probably not going to go to like a wrestling event, or I'm
Right.
not going to go to, like go to something that I know there's going to be like these active threats, or could be perceived as
Mm.
threats, right? So maybe like that's a place, like a way that we can have some control over that. Like I
Yeah.
don't know, but yeah.
That's a really good line of thinking. Something I hadn't thought about before is like, yeah, if you know you're constantly going into an environment that makes you feel that level of threat or lack of safety, providing it's not like having to answer the phone because something's you need to do, you know?
You
Um,
just need to do them. Yeah.
yeah, some things need to be faced.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's yeah, to just as a means of like protecting those being activated, or I guess really protecting peace too, because like if you're not activating that, there's you're protecting a calm, you're protecting a
Yeah.
yeah, which yeah, that just like I don't even feel like I have words to put to that right now, but that just hit for sure. Um, I feel like we can, like you're like, I don't know if we can change it. I feel like there is always room for change. If like I said, the fawning serves me a lot of the time, you know? Is that something that I would want to totally let go? Yes. No, sorry. But when I think about perfectionism and my journey with trying not to step into that space as often, just because the perfectionism drains me more. Like, you know, like the defensive mechanism doesn't serve me in the same way that it used to. Do you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean it doesn't still come out, but do I try to be a little bit more intentional with it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I notice when it comes on, it's when I feel it is still tied to fawn in a way, but it's like I see it kick on. It's like, oh, I need to do this all exactly right, and there's always this like or part. And yeah, I feel like yeah, maybe we can change it if it doesn't serve us. But I don't know to what capacity because mine's still very much with me. It's just like I have a little bit more awareness of like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know if that even
Or
makes
like,
sense, but yeah.
yeah, or like using them less often, or like
Yeah.
yeah, like because and so yeah, that actually I always reserve the right to change my mind.
Yes.
And so I think like it was just helpful for me to hear kind of like what you shared around, yeah, what no longer serves us, and like letting some of those things go. And so when I think about, I think sarcasm was a defense mechanism, like one of my
Mm.
defenses that I've used a lot.
Yeah.
So before, you had a chance to make fun of me, I would use sarcasm in a way that I would make fun of myself, right?
Yeah.
And that was defensive
Yep.
because I didn't want to give anyone else the upper hand. And so that has shifted a lot for me.
Yeah.
Like, I can't really think of a time, even in the last maybe couple of years that I would have like I would have used that as like a self-deprecating, like kind of like given a making fun of myself essentially, or using
Yeah.
sarcasm in a way that would be hurtful. But I remember doing that a lot, like as a child, being a bigger person in this world. That was definitely something that I hung on to. And so, yeah, I do think that we can change them if it no longer serves us, because yeah, that doesn't serve me anymore, right? Like it
Yeah.
kind of feeds into a belief system too, because I think a lot of like we also have identity based threats. So the things that
100%.
like threaten our core like identity, or our beliefs, or our values, or even like our sense of belonging, there are things that threaten that in our world. And I think that when I think of sarcasm, that was exactly that. It was a threat against who my identity, or my sense of belonging or whatever. And then when I kind of like relied on it so much, it kind of becomes like a truth in some way for you, right? And so like
Yeah.
I'm just like kind of like making this connection now, so I'm not able to articulate it, I think, exactly the way I mean it maybe, um but yeah, kind of when you tap into these defenses so much, it becomes like a reality, like in your
Yeah.
own truth, right? In your own world. So yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. That was actually, I know you said you weren't able to articulate it, but that was a pretty clear example to me. Yeah, and you said it's attached to a belief system, and it's so true. I mean, yeah, what does it mean if I don't show up and do things perfectly about me? It's of course it's
Mm,
attached to a belief system, you know?
yeah.
Not good enough, like not
Yeah.
worthy to be here, not, you know, and yeah, and I think if they're exhausting us, it maybe that's the place of like maybe I want to shift this a little bit, you know, this doesn't feel
Mm,
good for me to do anymore.
mhm.
Um and it's taking more from me than protecting me. But the question that I love that is underneath it is like, what do I actually need here? You know,
Yeah.
like what is this part of me needing that it's not getting? Like
Yeah.
you know, and maybe it's reassurance, maybe it's needing space, maybe it's needing to find some safety, maybe it's needing some love. Like I don't know what that is, but like what is the actual need underneath this reaction?
Yeah.
And I think we'll table this conversation, the last question that I have, but just we'll leave it for food for thought, because I feel like that involves vulnerability, is to step into this like, well, what do I actually need? And can we even access that if we don't soften within ourselves to be like, and I don't have answers to that question. I think that's why maybe something food for thought to think about. And
Mhm.
just if you want to answer it, feel free. But yeah, just how like that vulnerability with ourselves, to be real with ourselves of like, what do I truly need? Can we even access that if we don't soften into like a more compassionate, curious space of like, you know, maybe this isn't serving me, what do I truly need here? Because if we're threatened, we're acting from survival mode. So yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
if you have thoughts about that, but it's a
I
conversation.
was saying, are we going there or we're not? Because I like
I
totally
don't care.
feeling
If
it.
you feel compelled to go there, we can. I don't have too many thoughts about it at this time, but it just re-brought up that question that I had been thinking about since I had coffee with a friend yesterday, and that kind of came up of how being vulnerable is not safe. So therefore, like, you know, and so like how do we tap into that? But yeah.
Yeah, I think that in itself is a defensive
Right.
behavior,
Right.
right? And so yeah, I really love this question because I think a lot about vulnerability, and I think that's probably why I think a lot about it because it's something that I can really relate to. But and I don't even know where we're at for time, so I'm not gonna I won't go on and on and on about this. But I think the the biggest thing that comes up for me when I think about vulnerability within, our defenses is that we can be vulnerable within our defenses, but I think the quality of that vulnerability changes
Hmm.
when the defenses soften a little bit. So when we're able to kind of let that go a little bit, it changes.
Mm.
And so, yeah, I don't know, because I guess when we're in like a defended position or we are still being vulnerable in a like more unconscious way, I think, right? Like I don't think defenses erase vulnerability. I think
Hmm.
it's actually a response to it, more so than
Ah.
like yeah, I don't know, I think that's where I stand where I
Right.
stand
Right now.
on the
Yeah.
connection. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that explanation because I really I want to think more about that in general. Just
Mhm.
you know, the connection between it two, like the two of them. But I'm just thinking about. I know we've talked about conflict in episodes as well, but like when two nervous systems are reacting off each other, so both are in offense or defense or both, and switching back and forth
Yeah.
when we can notice the humanity or like step into again more compassionate space, more curious space, we can understand that maybe neither of us are responding from a place of even maybe where we want to be, and like the vulnerability brings that back of like, okay, you know, and obviously that can be done in repair after. It definitely doesn't have to be done in a moment either, like that.
Yeah.
But that's just what I was thinking about as you were talking, like when two nervous systems are just like whoo, 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 and they're just escalating one another. Yeah.
Yeah, just bouncing back and forth,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Because, yeah, like, a person, like, say, yelling, for example, right? If where someone's going in that fight mode or whatever,
Yeah.
I think that is vulnerable to maybe feeling powerless, right?
Ah,
It's
yeah.
kind of like, when I think about the avoiding for me, I'm being vulnerable to being overwhelmed. Like I don't want to be overwhelmed, so I use
Mm.
avoidance as a tactic to battle that, right? And so yeah, like I think that yes, defenses aren't the opposite of vulnerability. I think for me, it's my strategy to be able to manage that vulnerability because I work on vulnerability a lot. And it's something that comes up often for me. And I think a lot of those behaviors come from that. If I, stop to reflect on the things that I've gotten really comfortable with and my defenses really is to manage my vulnerability at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, very that's love that explanation, Jess. It I knew I was going to go away with this episode with lots to think about. Because I came into it very open of like this is the very little bit that I feel like my lens has looked at as of this time period of my life, but like I want to kind of explore it a little bit more and just part of, just not I don't feel like it's forced inner work, but I love when I just narrow we know this, I talk about this, when I narrow in on a topic in my mind and then I can just kind of see it play out around and like, like take in insights and understand from other people and what they're doing. And like I'm very nerdy for that. So I'm excited to see where that thinking goes. But yeah, just to all of you listening, I'd be curious, have you thought about this topic before? Like, because some people do specific therapy around, like I said, around internal family systems. So you know about like the
Hmm.
firefighters and the protective parts and like, so that's part of built into that style. But yeah, like, do you notice yourself doing them in the moment? Like, what role are they playing for you? Like, how are they serving? Are these thoughts that you've had? And um, yeah, I always would love to hear about that from you guys because we're going to learn from you too as you
Yeah.
share your truths. So anyway, I also guilty as charged have not been totally tracking the time. I feel like we're okay, but I will round it out here. So just wanted to know if you have any last thoughts around this topic or other things you want to share before we kind of sign off for the day.
No, I don't think so. Just again, like really appreciative of the topic because yeah, I hadn't really there were things that I was like saying when we were talking about it. I was like, oh, wait a second, I've never really even thought about that before. I can't articulate it because I didn't really put that much thought into it. So now I have other things to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've reflected it back twice, but what I'm taking from this is we're the only species who pay for our mistakes more than once.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
coming with me for sure. And as I move through this next little bit, may that stick,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it feels very self-compassionate to not pay for the mistakes over and over. That feels like obviously very easy to say, maybe a lot harder to have in action, especially if we're trying to break things within ourselves and stuff. But
Yeah.
I feel like that's just a really good phrase for my brain to sink into. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're the only
Yeah.
species to pay for it twice. So yeah. Well, thank you for this conversation. This has been great. And yeah, if more things come up, we can come back to this topic if Jess and I deepen into it, and and if you guys want to hear more, let us know. Um, but yeah, thanks for tuning in with all of us. We love having you here, and until next time, stay soulful, everyone. Thanks for tuning into Soulful. We hope you found something meaningful to carry with you on your journey. And if you enjoyed today's episode and want to show your support, we invite you to subscribe, share the podcast, and leave a review wherever you listen.
And if you're eager for more, you can connect with us on Instagram and Facebook at Soulful the Podcast for additional content and updates. Until next time, stay soulful.